you had a Cadillac for sale, did you not? Or did you post it? What do you?
Hey,
you're the caddy guy.
If you're not hustling, you're sleeping.
Yeah.
So this wasn't it. This was not the Cadillac for sale.
Yeah.
This is the caddy from season 1. Season 1, episode 6, Triple Black Cadillac.
Is that a 3? What year is that?
4.
4.
6. Well, how would you know? Ooh, that's just the other day when I picked it up.
That's badass. Those wheels are kick-ass too.
Yeah. Yep. I'm going to fall in love all over again looking at these pictures.
Let's go for a ride, Shag.
You clearly had too much blood in your alcohol system.
I didn't say I stopped drinking on Sunday. I'm just telling you that I'm still hungover from those days.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
My ass is dragging.
And I turned around and I said, "You just missed 10 grand." He goes, "Why?" And I said, "Because that was me being a dick."
No fucking way.
I'm
no way.
As you can imagine, there's no situation in the world where somebody thinks Lou was too loud.
Yeah.
I can hear you laugh from here, not through the screen, but from
That's true. That is true. Hold on for a sec. Do you think we should explain these hats or no? Just keep on going?
Just keep on going. Just keep on going. Don't pick it up when we bring on our guest.
You need to do is check out DEI, Design Engineering Incorporated. They keep the heat out so you're not sweating to death. Check them out.
I do like that. It's perfect, and it's perfect for the show. It really is.
That first DEI commercial was the bomb. That thing was the best.
We thought so too. It's
all these guys the way you use it. It's okay.
Yeah.
Been with my wife since 94. Met her in 94, got married in 97. Lou, when we met, she said, "Don't even talk about sex until we get married." After we were married, she said, "You can talk about it all you want." So, it ain't happening. I tell you, I got it rough. I'll tell you.
I think there was like probably 30 or 40 extras, on set that day. And when they started asking, who here can drive a 6-shift? This is like 30 or 40 extras. None of them could.
What?
And it's like, then the directors, why'd you bring these cars with clutch pedals? It's like, well, that's the only way these old Land Cruisers came. There was no automatic. So anyways, we had to test a couple of my mechanics as terrorists and put them in the cars to. So
it's cool. It's cool. It's got
different folks, different strokes.
But you start getting dizzy. There you go.
Kane's got to throw that up. He's breaking my balls ever since we got
Look at that guy. Look at that librarian.
Man, we could talk for weeks about this stuff.
Hey everybody, it's Lou Santiago, and tonight You know what it is? 3 lefts don't make a right. Now, just so you guys know, last week was not a faux pas. We actually took the week off because Ryan and Ken had a vacation planned, separate vacations, because, you know, they have separate people, separate wives in their lives. So they went on vacation and they took a week off, you know, because it's tough dealing with John. It just is. John's a diva at the end of the day. So we got to make sure that Ken and Ryan get their downtime, because we don't want those 2 guys to start messing up, because then, quite honestly, John looks bad, and that by osmosis makes me look bad. So there you go. So that's just the truth of what happened. We got a great show tonight. We're going to talk about Bitchin Rides with Will Lockwood. All right. Now, Will's cool, and me and Will have got a little bit of history, because I was coming out of Tampa, Florida after doing that show on Motor Trend one time going to SEMA, because I drive. I've been driving for the last 10 years. And Will said, hey, man, can you stop and get me something? I was like, no problem. You know, why not? The only difference was I didn't go from Arkansas to Texas. But hey, we're going to talk about that. Other than that, we're going to bring John in, and then we're going to get busy and talk to Will. Come on, John. Come on in. Where's John? John!
Yo, I'm here. I'm here. It ain't easy being me. Right out of the gate, you're breaking my balls. Throw the weight on me. Yeah. Listen, I'm drinking. Tonight I'm drinking.
Drink heavily.
Yeah.
Once again.
I'm going to call this cocktails and carbon monoxide. That's it. That's this episode.
Cocktails and carbon monoxide. I liked it. That's, you know, if we ever change the name, we need to use that.
Right? This episode. Yeah,
so, okay. Well, before we get too deep into it, excuse me. Next week, we don't have a guest scheduled. So you were mentioning
we were supposed to have Senior, but he's not confirmed.
Right. So
we left it open.
Right. So that just tells me we don't have a guest. I mean, I don't know what else to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what do you say next week? We just and Ryan and Ken, they can chime in and tell us what they think. Open up, get the phone line going, and tell all these guys to call.
We call in, problem solve. I mean, you're great at troubleshooting.
I mean, we can do that.
I've done it. Well, I also have Noah from Speed is the New Black.
Okay.
We were texting back and forth. He agreed, wants to do it. I think he's a little shy about doing it by himself.
Right.
But not a problem. Also have Austin Craig from Shelby American, who has actual Shelby stories, worked with, knew Carl Shelby.
There you go.
Talked to, crazy story, Jay Leno's people, been going back and forth with them, talking to the publicist. She's pushing there's a guy out there that she was hoping we'd cover him. He is starting a museum, Shelby Museum.
Really?
Grand opening, I think, is the 14th. I have all the details and I'll send it over to you, but we may have him on the show.
That's fine.
So Kathy Ireland is the host, supermodel.
Yeah.
I was actually reading through the email, Lou. I was hoping there was invitations there saying, come on out. And we would show up like 2 jackasses at a black tie event looking like we're here. The Dumb and Dumber.
The Hawaiian shirt.
We'd be Dumb and Dumber. We'd have.
I'll show up in a Hawaiian shirt and shorts and flip-flops. I'll do it.
But
with my infidel hat on.
I think the grand opening's October 14th. So maybe we talk about time between now and then is having a Shelby show with
John said if we're scraping the bottom of the barrel, he'll come on.
Speaking of Tampa,
what the hell?
Also, bottom of the barrel. Also, I reached out to Elon Musk. I got his email address. I don't have his phone number, but it'd be cool to have Elon Musk on.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be way cool. Yeah.
He's got a pretty simple email address, believe it or not.
It's probably what, Elon Musk?
Yeah, it's Elon Musk. I ain't going to tell you because people be hitting him up and messing it up for us. You know what I wanted to tell you? Look, Ken's got to put this up.
The vacation had Ken good. He's already busted your balls.
Yeah. What I wanted to tell you too, Ray's birthday was 2 weeks ago. I got a call from him. He is in the hospital. He's getting surgery Friday.
Dude, I called him. He didn't answer.
Yeah, he's in the hospital.
Fucking
He
bum.
fell off a ladder. He broke 11 ribs, needs back surgery, collapsed lung, 76 years old. Yeah. I was thinking, if he would pick up, we'd get him on the show, break his balls live at the hospital in ER.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I just wanted to tell you, because I haven't talked to you since last week.
Yeah. It's been a week.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
It's been a week. I had a doctor's appointment today. He gave me 2 steroid shots for the bulge disc in my back because it's getting better, but really slow. So other than that, and the school is doing good. Just moving right along, man.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, I'm ready to start shooting in my shop. I just got to get my back a little bit better. So. Oh, did that guy come pick up the fire chicken?
Yeah, him and his brother, Sal and Enzo, came down from Connecticut, took the train into Wilmington, Delaware. I picked them up. 2 cool guys. The brother Enzo, he says he had a backpack. He goes, my cowboy hat is in my backpack. They jumped in it, I guess 250 miles, rolled with the tops off. I'm thinking, they're making cool stories.
See, that's awesome.
Can you imagine you take the train with your brother years from now, they'll be laughing, going, we had 2 jackasses in a Trans Am doing 80 miles an hour down the turnpike. I mean, you know what I mean? But it was pretty cool.
That's why driving is so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Nice guys. Yeah, it worked out really well. I hated to see it go because it is a nice car. I mean, it was a good driver. I'd love beating on it and taking it out. And,
yeah.
It was cool. But, it was on my bucket list. I checked it off. We're good.
Yeah. You got it. So, so speaking of, having stories, I don't know if I ever told you this. I lived in my 64 Impala, which I still have for a year while I was out of the Navy for a little while. And I left California with $40 and half a tank of gas. And I'm running across on I-10 because I never drove that part of the country. So there's this big sign. It says Arizona State Penitentiary, do not pick up hitchhikers. And there's this guy standing in the shade with his thumb out. So there's nothing around him.
Did you stop?
Pick him up. His name was Max. And I said, I go, where you going? He goes, I'm going back to Houston, Texas. He said he was going out to California because he was a framer, for houses. And he said he was going out there and he got rolled and they took everything he had, left him. He said they left him on the side of the road with no clothes on.
They're hookers. Hookers do that.
And a truck driver stopped and gave him clothes. So the guy must have been like 300 pounds because it looked like he was swimming in these things. So we dined and dashed all the way from Arizona to Houston, Texas.
Oh boy.
We dined and dashed. Yeah. We just did whatever. It was crazy. It was crazy.
You gotta save that shit for the book. Right?
Oh, we can get, who's that? Bruce. Yeah, Bruce, I can get Brad. I see him all the time. I go over to his shop and bother him. Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll get Brad. Brad will probably do it.
You want to pull out Will?
Yeah, let's get Will. Let's get him.
You can tell the bootlegging story.
Yeah.
Where you bootlegged for him.
Yeah. We'll talk about
that. Sounds cool. We going to commercial? Or we going right to Will?
Ever wonder what happened to your favorite Hollywood stars? Some are screen legends. Some made history.
What do you say? Is it the new Bluesmobile or what?
One thing's for sure, they all have more to tell. Road trip with me, Lou Santiago, as I hunt down these iconic cars.
The car's actually stolen. My kids said, Dad, you're not going to believe what's over here.
And take you behind the scenes to get the story behind the story.
I'm going to have the car do the same thing. Pow, bang, wow.
From the designers who built them, the stars that drove them, and the lucky motherfuckers who stumbled across them. Where was his car when you found it? Pull in there. Dude, tell me you have your hands on it. You're not gonna believe some of this stuff. Ever wonder
what the hell, Will?
We're a class act, I'll tell you.
He's not 100%. He's still on vacation.
Too funny.
All right, there we go. Yeah, that's his go-to card. That's his, hey, get me out of jail card. Break down the door.
God. So
Will,
what's up, Will?
Oh my gosh, you guys are crazy.
It could spiral out of control at any minute.
I just got Smokey and the Bandit just playing in my head. I just can't even.
There you go. There you go. That's a Trans Am and looking for the old cars. And
Yeah,
right?
and running beer and
So before we really get into it with Will, so when I don't know, it was probably 4 years ago now, maybe 5. I was coming out of Tampa from doing the show, so I was going to SEMA because I went straight from Tampa to Vegas. So I'm driving, right? and I don't know how. Were you the one who asked me to get it, John?
No, I think it was Lane.
Somebody.
I think I was talking to Pringle. We were talking Yingling.
Yeah.
And then somehow somebody said we can't get it. So I called Lou because I knew Lou was, he was doing 105 miles an hour across the country.
Yeah.
Right.
So they sold it. Of course, Lou got the cans instead of the bottles. I don't drink out of the cans. But
Well,
he got 2 cases.
now, you can't complain, okay?
I think somebody specified the cans. I can't remember what it was.
It was cans. It was 2 cases.
Yeah.
I think the line is Tennessee at the time. I don't know what it is now, but they were working their way across the country. But you guys can't get it out in Utah.
I guess not. Yeah.
Yeah.
And somebody wanted it, and so we
and I was on the road, so I made
there's a long way to go and a short time to get there.
So we tagged up at SEMA.
In the Scion XB.
Do some running.
See, whenever you're going to be a mule, you got to be in something that's totally nondescript.
Right.
You don't want to be in a hot rod. I was in a Scion XB, just rolling along. That's all I was doing. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
I remember talking to Will at SEMA, and one of the things that I still believe and can't really get my head around is the fact that there's so much talent at that shop. I mean, to have so many guys that can actually do so many things. I could see 3 or 4, but in one area with the talent that comes out of that shop is pretty amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It takes everybody. It takes everybody, and everybody brings their own part. And we have, we have had some great people that we would love to have back, and we've got some new guys that are just excellent. And it's always just the coolest, like, artist place where everybody puts their part in, and you get to the end and you can see everyone's influence in the deal. And we've just been really lucky, to be honest.
How many guys are in the shop, Will? What's the size of it now?
Right now, there's like 25.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. Working in the back, getting stuff done. We go through the whole process.
That's a hell of a payroll, honestly. I wouldn't want to have
a lot of guys.
It's big. We've gone through, we kind of grew up, and then we've kind of pulled back, just in the quantity of stuff that we get accomplished comfortably and properly, and, the whole 9 yards. So, it's cool though. And it's fun. And
Yeah, I was talking to Dave. He was out of Pittsburgh. Met up with him, Kevin, Dave, when you're doing a show out there. Pittsburgh's about 300 miles from me, so I got invited to drive out. And he was actually showing me some of the pictures and messages. You guys are going back and forth. He said he was on a plane, and it was funny to hear Dave say, I was on a private plane. I guess the guy that owns Max Automotive, owns a plane, and he says, they got internet. They got Wi-Fi on the plane. I was like, where do you live? But it was funny to hear him actually. He goes, Will was going back and forth. He showed me the pictures. At the time, you were working on a 53 Corvette.
Oh.
And he says, we're figuring out the headlights because you guys are going back and forth on what headlight, how to put it in and what. And you had some ideas, I think he was saying, at the time. Of course, the show's been out. But he was going back and forth, and it was pretty cool to hear him. He was really excited about that project, and he was really excited about the movement on it. So we got into that. But I also wanted to talk about not only that, but I wanted to talk about that 67 truck that you guys put together. And tell me how the hell you figured out what to do and how long that took, what we see on TV and what's reality.
There was a joke that basically, when Dave brought that whole situation to me, and it's straight up on the TV, that when he brought that and said, hey, guess what? We're going to chop this top on this truck. I said, well, there goes the next 6 months of my life, you know. and as I understand, to the day, from the time when I said that to the reveal, which includes many other things, obviously finishing the truck,
right,
that it was 6 months. So
Man.
a small portion of that was the top, you know, and then you break it down, the mechanism, the tonneau covers, the finishing beyond the mechanism, but it was just wild. And I'm lucky to basically be in a position where people give me the time to do what I need to do.
Yeah.
And ultimately to be asked to do these wild things over and over, or, you know, what's the next wild one we're going to do.
Right.
How did you approach that? When you know, that's the game plan. How do you approach that? What's your first thought, and where do you end up? And walk us through that.
Well, I try to eat all the elephants like one bite at a time.
Right.
You have to break it down. Even the coolest machines or mechanisms all break down to one simple machine. And so you have to get back to that simple machine, build that piece, build the next piece, build the next piece. But ultimately that top, I mean, if you look at a C10 roof,
yeah,
it looks like a convertible top. It looks like a convertible hard top. That upper roof panel already has the split in the B panel or in the B pillar. It already has the split there. You're looking at it the whole time like, well, this is made to be a convertible. And so it had got kind of mentioned in passing, you know, at some point, what if we made it a convertible? And then when it actually came to fruition, I was just like, well, okay, fine. It's already done. You know what I mean? You can already see that it's doable. And we went and looked at some, you know, modern BMWs and some modern stuff that just go make what I did with that roof look like Tinker Toys, you know. But it didn't need to be that intricate. It's a very simple, for the most part, standard convertible top. Now, what the trick was, and I honestly treated it that way. Two-dimensionally, I pictured and I dimensioned what needed to, you know, the roof needed to sit in the bed. We knew that.
Right.
That whole roof skin needed to park itself back there in the bed. That piece needed to move. What the rear window section was going to be one of the links. And then you need to control the roof. And the trick came down to controlling the roof. We needed it turned out what worked was a linear slide through that pillar to transfer that motion so that you could control the roof, keep it level and get it to land nice and not come outside. Yeah, not come outside of the pillar. So ultimately it really wasn't. People just, you know, I mean, I guess.
No, listen, that's hard as shit.
But it's
that's hard as shit. It's hard to even know that thing's going to fold correctly without scratching, denting, and fucking up before it gets into the bed. Come on now. You're acting like, yeah, it's easy. I had a plan. Get the fuck out here.
He said he eats every elephant one bite at a time.
Yeah, I've tried shit like that. It ain't that easy.
John, just because you can't figure it out.
Come on, man. That's pretty genius. I don't give a shit who you are. That's pretty genius. And it's not easy. I don't care who you are, because I'd have that thing all banged up. I'd have back windows busted out of it. I'd throw a hammer at the windshield. I'd be pissed off. Plus, I'd walk away for 6 months. To get it done in 6 months is crazy. I mean,
what I like to do is get some little piece done and then sleep on it. Or you get an idea, and then that epiphany of how is it going to work comes to you that moment when you're waking up.
Right.
That's just always the way. You can't push things. If you're trying to push too fast, you're just gonna rush it into crap. You're just going to rush it into crap. So you got to kind of give the whole thing time. You do what you can. And that's what's good about a big project like that. There's so many actual mechanical pieces that you've got to kind of build and do, and this and that, and the other, then that you get the system working, and then you do those things, and then the pieces that aren't falling into place have time to ultimately fall into place. I mean, I did spend a good bit of time on the computer, and with most things, if you're asking how do I go about the stuff, if I need to move something and it needs to land in a certain place, just like the Nomad tailgate that everybody loves too, you basically go, okay, it starts here and then it goes there, and this is where I want it to live. What mechanism do I, or hinge or 2 or 3 piece hinge is going to get it from here to there. And then,
Yeah, I think that you approach and look at things differently. I think you and Will's technical and looks at the smallest pieces and makes it work. I'm just I rough shit out. I'm good at roughing it out and going, that's about what it looks supposed to look like.
That's what you do at first, though. That's what you do at first. You rough it out. Yeah.
Let's back up. Let's back up to early influences when you were a young dude, because this talent just doesn't fall out of the sky. It comes from somewhere. Somehow you start to focus and get your craft somewhere, somehow, some way. What are early influences? Who was the first person that took shit apart? Who was the first person what is the first thing you took apart and went, how's this work? And where did it all start as a kid? Because it had to start way early.
Okay, way early. The first thing that I remember being an interest to me, and it all has to start, none of your aptitude even begins without the interest, right? So I had a babysitter. I was 4 or 5. I had a babysitter come over, young man. He had a model of a ramp truck, AMT, whatever brand it might have been. He had a plastic model of a ramp truck, and it had some little ramps that went from those ramps that come down the back of the truck to the ground. And I said, wow, did those come in the kit too? He said, no, I made those. And that right there just kind of opened my eyes to the fact that, wait a minute, you made those, the rest of this kit is, been produced. It's been come out, it's a scale model of a real working vehicle. There's so much more to it, but wait a minute, you made those out of, some, right. I don't even recall, but they looked identical. Was that some material? I just, I don't remember what the full conversation was, but that was the biggest influence in the fact that you can do it. You can do it, and you can make this stuff. And so that's the first time and I was young. And I remember after that, before I know it, I was taking the training wheels off my bike, find a crescent wrench, adjust it to what it needed to be, get the training wheels off the bike, and doing those things. And then you start disassembling stuff, of course.
Yeah.
Something that's broke, something that's going in the trash, something that's working perfectly, whatever, your mom's not looking, and you're taking, Phillips screwdriver takes the back of your TV off. I remember that. So
I want to be a TV repairman.
Burn the house down.
The gears start turning. The gears start turning. If you could turn them off, wouldn't that be an amazing thing? Because then maybe you could sleep at night, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But there was that. And then magazines. I think I was 7, and I remember we were out in Reno. My mom had a trip out there for some reason, and I was looking at the magazine stand, and there's a Street Freaks magazine, which, if you remember, in the 70s.
Yeah.
Street Freaks magazine, and that style of car, kind of like the Corvette Summer, over the top, wild, home built, but yet just wild, jack it up, hang the tires out, the whole 9 yards, whatever. And so magazines were a huge influence on me because I could afford them, and I could study, and I could look, and I could enjoy, one day I'm going to build these. We had a small engine repair. I was 12, 13, 14. My mom met a gentleman, and he ended up, they got married, and we had a small engine repair. So you learn engines and tolerances and, valve seats and the whole 9 yards there.
No, you went to Votech too, right? Did you do all 3 years Votech?
I went 2 years vocational. My first year I was in electronics class and some other vocational type of things. But even in junior high, we had in our shop class, there was a fender. You could knock a dent into it, beat the dent back out and mud it over and sand it and do all that. So that was I think that was like 9th grade. So, the whole vocational school shop class, they need to get back to funding that stuff and teach people
they do
enjoy their hands and stop putting people down for that, whatever.
Yeah,
but
they do.
And then I did go to vocational school. Saved my high school because I was kind of really over listening to lectures in history class and all that. And, you get bored.
Yeah.
And I guess I'd say I wanted to do so much more, but really, the gears are turning and you want to work on cars. And, that's when you're 14, 15, getting ready to own a car. And that was back when I think everybody was just dying to drive. These days it doesn't even feel like people really care to drive.
They don't.
But
your first car, let's fast forward. You're talking high school sometime. Your first car is 65 Chevelle. Tell us about
my first car was a 68 El Camino that my mom had bought for me.
Okay.
And I basically took the year to destroy it.
How so? Tell us more.
That was during the pro street era, right? And so I basically cut that car apart to where if I ever had any money, I could have put some big tires under the back, and I ended up getting a big block from my uncle that basically self-destructed on the way home because he had just done an oil change and the oil filter come loose and that made it halfway home. So I didn't have a lot of luck with my first car and that first year, but about 2 weeks before my 16th birthday, I was coming home from school and I found that Chevelle right there. And you can see the blue and the black.
Yep.
The whole thing was actually had a layer of ruddy brown primer over the top of the entire car. And
why'd you skip the door? What's the story with just leaving the door? Cheech and Chong? What are you thinking there? Will, where are you at? Why not shoot the whole car?
Okay. If we're talking about the difference of how I think about things, this is actually the epitome of how I think about things.
All right.
And it was really funny because I got called out by anyways. So I first took the front clip off.
Okay.
Sandblasted it, absolutely clean, straightened it, primed it. That white is Kolar primer, it's a epoxy primer. And then I did the back. And I only primered the places that had been actually touched and done and, and cleaned. And so I hadn't really touched the doors. And, oh gosh, I don't know.
You ran out of primer.
Couple years later, well, I was out of primer. Yeah. I mean, I was a kid, so that was expensive, but a friend of mine said to me, he's like, why didn't you just, blast a coat of primer over those just to make it look like a real car? And I thought to myself, well, they weren't done. That was the reasoning behind it, There's some other pictures that I sent you. I don't know if he's got them up, but you can see I did basically a full frame off on that car, and it still had those blue doors.
Wow.
Hey guys, I'll be right back. There's a stranger in my yard. I gotta go take care. Keep going, John.
So, Will, you're at 16 and you take the thing off the frame at 16 years old.
I was probably 17, 18, yeah, and I separated it, and had the frame blasted, and yeah.
You did the underside like it was a show car, but the outside you left the way that it looked.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. Because I was working my way up, working my way through the things, and painting the bottom was important to me.
What happened to the El Camino? What'd you do with the El Camino?
I loaded it up and sent it to scrap.
Oh.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward, because I don't know that a lot of people know just from watching the show that you were in the military.
Yeah.
So you're out of high school. How soon after? What's the story? Why did you enlist and go in the military? And thanks for your service, because that's pretty cool.
Thank you. For college money, I basically signed to the service for the GI Bill, and was first. Well, actually, I take that back. That we talk about the vocational thing, and I was going to vocational school, and I took the ASVAB, which is the military version, vocational aptitude battery. And the military told me I scored really well. Maybe that was just their sales pitch, but I was first looked at from the Navy, and they wanted me to go work on nuclear subs, and I got to the point where I was like, okay, cool. And then I was reading the fine print, and they said, well, 3 out of the 4 years you're going to be on the water. And I said, well, that's probably not for me, whatever. And then I started looking at the Army and turbine powered tanks. My stepdad was an aircraft mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very much into, that whole turbine thing, and it was very high tech. And then, tanks, I mean, they're cool. Not to say I had ever been around them. Finding out later that I really should have probably done something that was completely out of my wheelhouse, because they're going to train you anyways.
Yeah, right.
I probably, that might have been more entertaining, because when I was in basic, there was a gentleman from New York City. He was going to Germany to be on a film crew.
Huh.
So if I would have taken advantage of the military again, I would probably do something I knew nothing about, just so they could.
So do you think working on tanks and being around tanks had any influence on your final occupation of doing custom work? Any part of that did you learn and use later? Mechanics part of it?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Now, hold on, Will. I'm going to back up because we're bouncing around. We're missing a part here. Out of vocational school, you got a job in a custom shop prior to going into the military, correct?
Yes, I did.
Now, what did you learn there, and why would you leave and go into the military, and how soon after? What's the time frame there? How soon after being out of high school and having that job, or did you have it in high school?
I had the job in high school.
Okay.
I had gone to my first year, junior year, was I took auto body. Before I even got done with that, the teacher came to me and said, "Hey, I have a friend that just called me and needs a helper, and you're the first person I thought of." And I was like, cool, and went and met this gentleman, and he became a really good friend. But I was lucky enough to really, and so what that was, he had a day job, but he would do these side paint jobs, and he had a little shop. And so I would go in there and prep them all out, do all the body work, and get them all prepped for paint and cleaned up. And he would come in and spray them. And then we would, detail them out afterwards. And wasn't the most high tech thing. It wasn't the paint jobs we do now, of course, but nice anyways. And so I look back and I'm like, I'm really lucky, because I have been doing, it wasn't collision work. I've been doing these custom builds for, since I was 16. So, but why did I join the military? It's just probably simply the fact that was that was kind of a small job. And where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? You know what I mean? I think I just really kind of had, wouldn't say bigger dreams, but just I wanted the college money so I could go to school, further my education, go into engineering, go into, drafting, just further your education because I love school.
You're out of the military. Now, from what I understand, you opened up a Street Rodder magazine, looked around to see who was doing custom work because you knew that's where your heart was. Mm-hmm. Fast forward, you meet Dave in a shop. Explain that connection, where that happened, and was it love at first sight? You guys got along, or you were like, this guy's a dick, I can't stand him? How was the relationship?
Jeez. I did just that. I knew that there was Street Rodder always had kind of a guide to, the whole advertising section. And so you could basically flip through there and find out, the location of anybody. And even before I was out of the service, I was like, okay, who's in Salt Lake? Who's in that area where I was going to go back home. And I've always wanted to, I think it was the whole Hot Rod magazine, Trepanier, when he basically really kind of turned the whole industry on his lid, the Street Machine Nationals, all that stuff. I just loved it. The whole Pro Street thing, all of it. And
yeah.
So yeah, I did just that. High performance coatings. It didn't matter what the place was, but I went there. What do you guys do? So I went there and coated headers for probably 5 years.
Wow.
And yeah, but Dave had just started there, I guess, I think a month or 2 months before me. And it was a small place, 4 or 5 people at the time, max, employees. So you didn't have a lot of not getting along.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't go into a place and then not get along with people. Why not? That's a waste of time.
No, I'm kidding. Dave's a good dude. I'm just joking. I'm being an ass.
And we did hit it off pretty well. And we went, we'd go riding to lunch. And go to the park and just hang out and talk cars and what are you doing? And, we're always just interested in, what's the next thing we're doing. And
what year are we talking? When is this?
92. 92. Mm-hmm. That's when I first started.
Can you imagine having the internet and the access to what people have access now back then? Because you're right. You would go out to the bookstore.
That's right.
Thumb through stuff, hoping to find something cool.
Yes.
Maybe buy one, because Street Rodder was probably $3.95 at the time, which was like $100 when you were a kid. It was more expensive than the others. The others were Hot Rod, I think, was 99 cents. But Street Rodder was always a couple more, but it was always thicker and had more shit in it, a lot of advertising.
Yeah.
But can you imagine?
Little educational stuff. And
yeah, it was a little more detailed. It was a step above. But can you imagine having the internet and how that would have changed your focus? You know what I mean? Compared to what kids have today.
It's really interesting. It's bizarre. When people start asking me, how do you do this? How do you do that? I go, find it on YouTube.
Yeah, it's there.
There is so much out there. What do you want to know? What do you need to know? It is all out there. Somebody's, done a video. Somebody's done a thing. Anytime anything comes up, it's like, well, let's find out how it's done first real quick, not necessarily at work, but I'm talking home life, the repair stuff I do on my cars here. It's like, well, okay, you've got to do a water pump. Okay, let's find out the tricks real quick.
Yeah, easy. Yeah, to make not make the same mistake. So you're coating headers, you're working with Dave.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't heard any fab, any engineering. When did that come into play?
I would say I was a sophomore in high school, and I was interested in drafting and drawing stuff up and designing whatever. And the fab, I'd taken welding classes. High school, all of a sudden it's available to you. But let's talk one thing real quick.
Yeah.
The welding situation back in our day, they treated TIG welding like it was like
NASCAR.
You had to be a genius.
Yeah.
And so you've got to go through all this other BS. Let's run a bunch of stick and learn to braze and all this stuff before you could, that was totally backwards. They should have just let everybody TIG first, because it's just that much more intelligent, but whatever. But the engineering and designing stuff, books again. You know, you'd go stand in the Barnes and Noble or whatever, and trying to think of what the Ron Fournier, you know, book of sheet metal fabrication. How do you form blisters? How do you shape body panels so you can build a Trans Am car with big wide tires and tub in a car? You know, and even catalogs you learn from Art Morrison. You're going to tub a car. Here's the pieces, how to basically do a back half, you know, do a back half in your garage, put the car on jack stands, get the thing level, chop the back out, put our chassis in there. You know, I would just very visual learner. Of course I would read when I had to, but for the most part, you know, you're looking at stuff and just drooling because you can never really afford it or whatever. But
you go from headers, you're working with Dave. Who left first?
I did.
Where'd you go?
I ended up going, let's see, I first, and it was kind of the whole situation with leaving was I had started a small family, and I lived a ways away. I've always lived up north. I've always lived 40 miles away from work, but I needed more money. I needed more room for growth, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I left. I left the first time, you know, for whatever reason, and then some things didn't pan out, and I actually went back. But when I went back, I did my brother's truck and coated everything on it, and you know, kind of doubled down basically. Let's put it that way. Then I actually ended up at the local amusement park. And that was the funnest job, as a mechanic, and servicing rides and doing all that. And actually, at one point, helped them design. They have a power plant, and I helped them they were putting in another big engine and power plant, and helped them design all the plumbing on that. You know, just one day they were like, "Oh, let's put this tubing in and get some coolant flowing." And I was like, "Okay, well, let's just draw this up real quick so we know where the tubing's going, and let's, you know," and did that for him. And then I left there because the money wasn't the greatest in the same game, not really the potential. Actually ended up going to a big company where we were building pushback tractors. I was just kind of chasing money at the time, you know, really honestly, but lucked out because I had gone after the military. I had gone back to vocational school to be a machinist, and went through a drafting course then. So I had a couple other things under my belt, always falling back on that vocation. I always wanted to do machining. You know what I mean? That was always a love.
Yeah.
And went to this other job just in the sheet metal shop, and then lucked out and landed a machining position there with them, and was a machinist for them for 7 years. So that was rad. So it all worked out and all panned out. While I was a machinist, I ended up, you know, getting into the CNC side a little bit there too, running a large burn table, running some big drills, some CNC presses. I mean, just, you know, a lot of big equipment, and really cutting my teeth on a lot of that stuff. And
so hold on. Dave leaves. You hear he's doing it. Fast forward a little bit. He's talking about doing a shop out of his own place, out of his own garage.
Yep.
Now, Will, how do you go from dropping the security that you have where you're at doing work, knowing you got a family, you got income, you're doing better than you were today. You're doing better today than yesterday.
Yeah.
Do you go work with Dave part-time after work? I mean, you're right at the beginning of when Dave started his shop, are you not? Or right soon after?
He had opened his shop about 3.5 years before I started there with him. So he had been somewhat established.
Yeah.
And I had, you know, I went to see him a couple times. And of course, for stuff and anything he does, and mostly what he does is paint work and the like. And I was, you know, like I said, everything Dave's always built has been cool. Whether or not it was perfect, you know, back in the day, maybe not, whatever, but it was always cool looking and very, and exciting. And so I was a little jealous, you know what I mean? I was digging what he was doing. So I was working there. Yeah. Very stable, this, that, the other, but it wasn't so stable. It was a big corporation. You're always, I was even being there 7 years. I was still on the low side of the totem pole, and you were always on the chopping block. There's either a layoff or you're working 12-hour days. I mean, it was just kind of up and down. And ultimately I lucked out. I had my GI Bill from the military, and then they paid me to go to college also. So I did really well going to college, got my degree, and about 3 months later, they laid me off. I didn't care. I didn't care. I had gotten my degree. I was sitting really well. I was on the verge of opening my own place.
Yeah.
Trick was finding a shop. It's one thing to open a shop. It's another thing to run it, keep it going.
Yeah.
To do the books, to do the sales, to do
any business,
do the work.
Yeah, there's 5 jobs in one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I knew that. I knew enough about it. My degree is in business. Louis,
did you kill the guy or what? You find him?
No, but I would have. No, what it was is my daughter comes over because her husband goes to MMA practice. So she comes over and she's pregnant, and she's got her daughter with her, the 1-year-old. So she goes outside and she starts hearing, she said she's hearing, ooh, hey, ooh, ooh. So she said, is there someone out there? And it stopped. So she called me, and I got the phone on vibrate. So I just texted her, said, do you need me? And she said, someone's out in the woods. Because, we got 6 acres of woods.
Yeah.
So I got a flashlight, got my K-bar, and went in the woods.
Well, you're back. So you must have won. You must have won. You need me to get the lime? I got to get the lime again, don't I?
Yeah, 10 foot deep grave, cylindrical, and shit is all we need.
Who's got the backhoe?
Don't worry about that. I can take care of it.
Listen, we're talking to Will. He's about to join the shop that Dave's starting. I'm trying to dig out of him what happened, who, what. We didn't even get into the Volkswagen yet. Ken, you got the Volkswagen picture up that Dave was slapping together with the hubcaps on it?
There it is. And it's chopped.
It is chopped. Probably what, 3 inches? More.
Well, that's a Carson top, so the top's fully removable.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that.
And this is when we were at HPC, so we would ride around in this car and go to lunch.
Cool as shit.
Yeah, and the Porsche wheels, it's too bad because this was right before he got the spacers he needed for the rear to look nice, But, but the car was super cool and, draws a bunch of looks. The funny thing about this car is he sold Charity's 67 Chevelle to buy that bug. And so
that's what? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's like half price. What's he doing?
Yeah.
It's half the car.
But you got to trust what he was up to, I guess. So
cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah.
With that VW, he's probably smoking weed at the time. He had to be. Yeah, come on.
He's probably the cleanest guy I know.
I'm just cracking.
But otherwise, let's see. Where were we? We're almost.
So you're joining his shop. He's 3.5 years in. You jump in. What kind of builds? What was going on? What were you doing? Because you're doing paint work, prep work at the place that you got out of high school. What kind of work is Dave doing? And how did you know this is where I'm placing my bets? I'm going to live here.
There's a local car show here. I rode my bike up there that we had, that I just built, and it's all kind of a meeting of everybody, custom in the area, whatever, and run into him. He has a kind of a business partner at the time. His business partner says, hey, come down and see what we're doing, and let's talk. And I went down there, and like I said, I always dig what Dave was doing. And I had gone through that situation where I was like, starting my own thing would be very tough.
Yeah.
And I couldn't probably, accomplish it the same. So I decided, well, yeah, let's go. And it wasn't, it definitely wasn't the most lucrative thing in the world, but you got to do something for art, right? I guess.
Yeah.
And what were we doing at the time? The first day I went down there, he had this crazy flip over tray, license plate tray that he wanted built that would mechanically, basically make the plate disappear on the
James
back of
Bond. Yeah, right. That's James Bond shit at the time.
Yeah. And so I basically ran to the hobby store, got a couple little things, and by the end of the day had that thing swinging, and you click the button up, it would go up. You click the button down, it would go down. And he was amazed. I was amazed. We were all just like, okay, cool. And just on micro switches, and there you go. And got that done. Then we had a client who was building this is back in the day, a probe, and
a probe.
And we put the wildest like Diablo doors on it that had a single arm mounted back in the quarter. They were suicide Diablo doors, and a big linear actuator, and it would open those doors and then put the door back down, and it was all on almost like a ice skating blade that would go down into like a window track.
Yeah.
Would find that window track and slide down in that thing. And so all of a sudden the door is completely secure and would not go in nowhere, and built a whole roll cage in the thing. And that was wild. So that was another wild thing. And it was chopped, and the window was all cool, and we had to do everything so that the doors had room. And so that was wild.
Yeah.
And then I think the kind of the turning point for me, for the shop, for a couple things was we had some clients come in, and they had started a 4-door Impala Bella, if you're familiar with that car, and they wanted Corvette suspension under this car, and they had started into it but just couldn't accomplish it. They just couldn't figure out the geometry, this, that, and the other. And so we got that car. We started into it. Turns out they were a very rich family.
Yeah.
And the mother come in with the boys. The boys are trying to get this thing done. The mother come in and said, well, we want this car as nice on the bottom as we want it on the top. And so that started what I believe is the one of the
that's a turning point.
Very large builds that was like carte blanche. We want it nice, and you guys look like you can do it, and we did it, and won the Autorama basically that year, and that and then you've got that under your belt, and we just treat everybody that shows up at the shop like royalty, and because you never know who you're talking to.
Yep.
And if it just worked, it just worked. And then we all had this crazy synergy of, Dave's a dreamer. Dave dreams on the top side. We all know by my Chevelle, I dream on the bottom side. And then Kevin was there to make, to grab us both by the necks, the dreamers, and okay, we got to get this car done. And he's the finisher, and he is a finisher. And so it wasn't just the dreams of this and the dreams of that. It was okay, but we've got to get it done, and get it to the show, And so it's just really worked. And
let's talk about the months leading up to TV, what the shop was like, and how things changed once it aired. What was that like pre? Hearing the story, they want to do a TV show. What were your thoughts at that point? Bullshit, it ain't going to work. Our shop. What were you thinking?
Well, we have to go back to our first TV gig was, oh my gosh, what was the name of it?
It was another show you were on. I wasn't aware.
Well,
of that.
it's just a single episode. It wasn't a Hot Rod TV, or was it Hot Rod TV? God, what the heck is it called?
What did you do on it?
We built Apollo Ono's 64 Cadillac.
Okay.
Yeah. And
then TV came calling.
Yeah. So we had that under our belt. So that was cool. So we had a little acclimation to the thing. You know, we had done that a year before, a year and a half before, you know, the other TV thing kind of started calling or whatever. And, you know, Dave was kind of pushing towards that. And so when this TV deal kind of came around, you know, a couple of us anyways, we're kind of ready for it. We kind of wanted it. We kind of knew we had grown up watching Luis Santiago. How can we not? How can we not want to be on TV? What the hell are you talking about?
Muscle car, yo. Do it right.
Yeah.
Listen,
I mean, maybe not grown up, but at the time, you know, Lou's making cool TV, and we're watching that on the weekends, and you know, and educating people, and you know, there was Jesse James with the Motorcycle Mania, which I really dug.
Yeah.
And
that's a talented dude.
And to me, that was good TV because what was he doing? He was doing the work and he was getting it done. And and it was about the bikes. It wasn't about whatever else.
Right.
And then for me, it was kind of like a little bit of a vengeance because some other people had really ruined car TV. And I was no way going to be a part of that. And I didn't. And so when our producer first came in, well, actually, it's kind of funny story. When the first producer showed up at the shop, came in, rubbed his hands all over the cars in the showroom, and did something that Dave just didn't like. And basically, Dave called his boss and basically got him fired. Said, nope, this is not what we're doing. We're not dealing with this type of person, whatever. Then we got our producer that we have now. And
yeah,
he
understood it.
He didn't necessarily understand, but he listened. And so every opportunity I had, I said, this is going to be different. This is going to be different. This is going to be different. This is not going to be your prescribed, this is how we make TV for ratings.
Yeah, you know what, I was talking to Dave, and it was obvious because when you first saw the commercial, and it was like a 66 or 7, that white Mustang. What year was that?
67.
67, and the thing looked badass. I mean, it looked bitchy. Yes. And I got to tell you, and I told Dave the same thing. I reached out to David Lee. I said, "This is going to be a hit because you could tell the detail in this thing was just a monster." Mm-hmm. But when I was talking to Dave in Pittsburgh, I said, "Dave, it's obvious. There's one thing that sets you apart and that shop apart. That I don't know who said it or what." But the fact is that we're not going to rush to build. We're not going to hodgepodge shit for TV. You capture it. You shoot multiple builds side by side, because if you've paid attention, you can see the 60 Cadillac in the background, the copper Caddy, when you're doing something else. And they're shooting multiple builds. And Dave's going, we're not rushing and sacrificing shit for TV, which set you guys apart, because everybody else was, get it done. If we don't get this done by Friday. And the stress and the tension and the fabricated bullshit, which set it apart, because you got a chance, just like you're saying, to be able to see the craftsmanship and what you were doing and what it takes to build it. And I think people at home try to do what you're doing, want to do what you're doing, but you guys pull it off and go, not only that, you step up the game up to here, which has people going, if I only could, which keeps the audience attracted to that show. Because there is a lot of talent. I mean, you're running through that top one at 67, and I'm like, you make it seem like, 1, 2, 3, and I had it figured out. I call bullshit, Will. I look at it and I go, I got a 51 Cadillac. I took a 70 Coupe de Ville roof and put it in, and it wasn't 1, 2, 3. I struggled with that bitch for months, and I'm still not done. But the fact that you guys don't rush it through, I think, is ideal. And that's what sets it apart, of standing there going, you get it when you get it, no matter what it takes. That's what we do. I mean, am I right or wrong?
Well, it comes down to our clientele. We don't build cars for TV. We build cars for the people who are paying for the cars.
Right. Yeah. It's not produced.
And we are super lucky in that, you know, we're not contracted to do said thing. The only person at the shop for one that has a contract is Dave. When Dave first made his contract, it was the fact that, you know, we don't work for you necessarily. And now Dave's, you know, I'm not sure when it changed, but Dave's actually, you know, the producer. So he signs off basically on everything. So we've just been really lucky, but the reason why we're lucky is because we don't compromise in the fact that, we, you know, raise your hand, we want to be on TV. That wasn't the full point. That wasn't the only point.
Right.
You know, and we were a working shop, and we were successful building cars before, and we built cars that if you did see them on TV, you were more impressed with them in person because we weren't building TV cars.
Yeah, it's detailed.
We're building show cars. You know, I was lucky enough to grow up on the, you know, ISCA circuit. You know, you'd go to those shows. The cars are on lights, they're on rotisseries, they're on mirrors and the lights, and it's just fancy. Somebody would say, "Oh, Trailer Queen." Well, no,
it's a piece of art.
It's a piece of art. That's right,
yeah.
exactly. And the day you do drive it, you're driving a piece of art down the road, and it's amazing, you know, for that.
You were born in 1970, were you not?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you don't look like you're 51 years old. You look, I when I heard that and read that, I'm like, bullshit. I'm guessing 76, 77, but I'm just saying, for real.
Well,
Lou and I were talking about, we were talking about those cars you're talking about back in the day. And I used to go to the Philadelphia Auto Show. And back then they had fish tanks in the cars. They had all kinds of crazy shit. You could tell they were doing heavy drugs back in the 70s. Yeah, it was all, whatever you could think of, they were throwing in those cars. I actually met John Travolta at the Philadelphia Car Show when he was Vinnie Barbarino. I mean, it was a cool circuit back in the day. But Lou and I, we have conversations offline that sometimes are better than the show or far better than the show. But yeah, those days of building those cars and having them totally chopped up, freaked out, the way they were like rat fink shit was pretty cool. It was cool. But you fast forward, you got the team, you're doing, you know, the show. I was talking to Dave, and this was probably 3 years or close to 3 years ago. And I said to him, I heard you guys got a 2+ year waiting list to get in the door. What's the waiting list now, Will?
Oh, I hear, you know, 5, 6, 7.
I talked to Dave. I said, Dave, because we were talking about my Lincoln. I was going through putting an LS and doing it. And he says to me, I said, what motor? He goes, LS. I wouldn't put a Coyote motor. He says, I do LS. And he's telling me why LS. So I said, Dave, what if I ship it to you and put you put the LS in it? And he says to me, he goes, maybe you weren't listening. He says, I do the whole car, or I don't do it at all at this point. I do the builds that I want to do. And I thought, you know, it's respectable that he doesn't go, listen, I'm going to take whatever I can. I mean, he's at the point where he does top-notch shit and he's staying there.
Well, mainly because we can't, you know, we do have a big waiting list. I mean, I would love to, you know, do like, you know, if you said, hey, throw an LS in here, I'd be like, okay, sure. You know, just because I would want to. Yeah. But that's not fair to people who have been waiting. You know what I mean? That have been contracted and are waiting. And I think the time frame is just like, how realistic are we? Do we have a 2-year waiting list? Oh yeah, because we can get everything done in 5 minutes. I've seen it on TV. Yeah. Or are we realistic? And wait a minute, each of these cars take a good solid year. If you used to look at the book, you know, the book of how many people are waiting, and in our storage building, how many cars are sitting there waiting, then we would start counting years really quickly. So, you know, everybody keeps telling me it's a bad problem to have. And I say, well, yeah, I guess so. You know.
Well, I can tell you, as a kid out of high school, I have a similar background. I worked in body shops and shit, but I got to tell you, when I worked in those shops, I'll tell you the difference between what I see you guys doing and what you and Lou have in common. And the fact is, when I worked in those shops, those guys were miserable. They would fight amongst each other. Nobody got along, but that's how the place was, and that's how it was managed. When you watch Bitchin, you're like, you know what? Same with Lou, and when he's on TV doing his thing. It's like, you know what? I think I could hang out with him. I'd like to build a car with Lou. It's the same thing with your team. You look at it and go, man, I want to get in that shop. Those guys seem like it's not work. Yeah. It's fun, which makes all the difference in the world. The quality is different. There's no, hey, you're doing a shit job. Let's make fun of you and make you feel bad. If it's happening, you don't see it. You agree or no? I mean, is that shop as we see it, or is there tension there that's not displayed?
Oh, there's always, you know, it's humanity. You know, do you get along? Do you take everything someone says to you correctly? Do you, you know,
you let it go?
Of course, there's the mini drama, whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, I don't do it so much, but we used to spend 12, 14 hours a day there. If you're going to spend that much time there miserable, what is it? What's the point?
Yeah.
I used to always, when things would really get, you know, tense or whatever, and something was so important that it just had to be done, and, you know, whatever, it's like, first off, we're fighting against the car, not amongst ourselves. If we're not putting our focus on getting the project done, and we're wasting time arguing with ourselves about how it's going to get done or something like that, then we're not, you know, fighting the proper situation. And then when they would get all weird, and I would just tell them, look, I've been to war, and this is not it.
You're right. Yeah.
Okay. Your life is not on the line today. Don't start freaking out about another bolt.
Yeah.
You know, it's not worth it. And so
that happens more. So I see that in people, and you go, you know what? You have no problems if that's a big deal to you, and they fall apart or get, oh my God, you're never going to believe. And you hear it and go, seriously? Yeah. You've never seen, you'd never have been at a crossroads or something where you're going, oh, I'm fucked and I'm fucked. How bad do I want to get fucked?
Yeah. Wait, you're not bleeding to death.
Let's talk about the 53.
Well, actually, hold on a minute. Someone put a question up earlier. Did you guys talk about is that a Bronco in the background?
Oh,
someone put up a question wanting to know what that was, and what was your favorite car that came out of the shop?
Oh, the truck behind me, the big truck behind me, is a 74 four-door court bed.
Okay.
It's my pickup, and it's, I call it, I'm kind of like, it's a mountain truck. It's 4-wheel drive. It's got straight front axles, but it's basically, it looks like, you know, to look at it, it looks like a Baja truck, which would be a 2-wheel drive. But I live in the mountains, and I haul dirt, and I do those types of things.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's still, you know, it might look the part, but it's, you know, so what it really is to me is a big ass project that's never going to get done. But
I think we all.
It's getting close. It's getting very close, and I'm super stoked about it. But
that looks like a real life RC car. Am I not?
Yes.
Is that what we're talking about? And you just went, I'm going to do the same exact thing. It's going to kick ass, but in real life.
Yeah. You know, I'd love to have a desert truck, but when you say 2-wheel drive truck to me, I'm like, that's weird. What do you mean 2-wheel drive truck? You know?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to get stuck, dude, around here, you know, so have fun.
What was the other question? A favorite build coming out of the shop?
Oh, favorite build out of the shop. God, the next one, you know.
Good answer.
We've been so lucky that, I mean, yes, we've built multiple 69 Camaros. We've built multiple Corvettes of various years. We've built, you know, a couple multiples. But for the most part, we don't do too many things twice. And that's what's cool. And we've been lucky enough that every one of those cars are the epitome of that car, at least to us.
Yeah.
You know, could they be more amazing? Yes, of course. But, you know, with the budget that we were given, the whole 9 yards, they are pretty darn fantastic, you know, and amazing in their own right, and stylish enough that they could stand on their own in a group of that, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't want to go too deep into the Corvette, but I want to ask you a question. The carbon fiber.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Is it holding up? Are you impressed with it? Is it what you thought? What do you think of the carbon fiber?
I think the carbon's amazing.
Yeah.
I really honestly wish that we could do more carbon parts. And holding up, I mean, it can be as strong as you want it to be.
Is that process, is it a wet layup, or are they actually cooking it? Is it compacted under vacuum? How are those parts built? Because I don't think they showed that on the show. Did they not?
I am not sure that they've showed the actual layup of the bodies. I don't believe they have.
Is it wet or is it cooked?
It's cooked. They're pre-peg
resin,
system that they're put together. They're vacuum packed, and then they're cooked. And the key to these carbon cars is the upper layer is a surfacing carbon, which is very, very small twill, and will not leave fabric texture once they're painted.
Oh,
the intention,
it's a really tight weave. Yeah.
Yes. The intention of these cars is not to do a full carbon look car, but have a carbon fiber body. And so you could put a decorative stripe on the car, and lay a carbon across the car to be decorative, but really the bodies we're just taking advantage of the composite part of it. And
do you know how many plies it is, or how thick? Or you got to know how thick
it's various. It's all various. Where it needs to be thicker and stronger, it's thicker and stronger. But I think max is about 4. But each layer is not just a single layer. It's a
woven fabric.
Well, yes, but the pre-peg is a multi-layer. So you're putting more than one layer at a time in one spot. Does that make sense?
No, I got you.
Like the upper surfacing layer is a top surface. It was probably about 3 layers on its own.
Got you. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Already put together, kind of peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah.
Then it's laid on, and we would call it the one layer, but in fact it's multiple.
How thick is it, Will? Do you know? Average, just on a panel.
90 thousandths.
Okay. Have you had any trouble with it coming apart after you assembled the thing? Is it holding up like you thought it would?
No, yeah, it's super strong.
Oh, that's
super
cool.
strong. And a couple, and then a couple of the spots where we are finding in the initial construction where we need it to be thicker or stronger, we just basically do that.
Yeah.
Now, when I was talking to Dave, I think he said he had 5 before he even had the first one designed, sold, ready to go out the door. Of course, there was variances to each one. Are you guys still building those, or are the 5 done? Where's the status of those cars?
We are basically finishing number 1.
Oh.
Number 2 is right there behind it. 3, 4, and 5. What we're focusing on, we're wanting to get those 1 and 2 to SEMA, which is
you're going to be able to do it,
which is in a month. Yes. Oh yeah, totally.
Okay. Now, when I was talking to him, he was, I think you guys had roughed out a Mini Cooper headlight. And I was like, a Mini Cooper, but it looks, did you still do that? Is that what you're using?
He always goes back to that, when he thinks he always just spits that out. Mini Cooper style, modern, but no, the headlight on it, it's a full custom unit,
At least it's not Mercedes. It seems like everybody in that situation goes, let me put a Benz in it. You could tell right from the get.
You could totally tell. And so I think we did start with a Mini Cooper, because he's like, oh, just get it.
That's what he was talking when I
at least use that. Let's learn from the Mini Cooper headlight is the way I looked at it, and we learned that it's not going to fit, but the ring is very similar.
Yeah.
The trim ring, but ultimately every piece of that headlight, besides the actual projector unit, which is a Hella, is something that we've designed and had built and developed. And I mean, it's been quite a process. Let's see, we basically had the bodies together. We had the number 1, which we call number 3. It's a weird thing how they've somehow. Dave's car is the #1 prototype, but then we call it #3 now. So that's kind of. But the #1 customer car, the #1 customer car right now is painted. The chassis going together. These two cars, we're very much hoping to have at SEMA, and with a month to that, we've done more than that in a week. So I'm quite certain that they're going to be there just fine, and they're going to be spectacular. The difference between a 53 Vet and this car is night and day. This car, you can get in the door.
Yeah.
You can sit in the car. You sit down in the car. It's comfortable. It feels, it engulfs you. You're not sitting out of it like a go-kart.
Yeah.
There's a steering wheel hitting you in the legs, or did you fix that?
No. we fixed all that. It's comfortable. It feels like you're sitting in a race car, and these cars are going to be so ballistic. I mean, they're about 2,400 pounds done.
Wow.
And
how far is your ass from the ground?
It's pretty much right there. It is pretty much right there. The pan reaches down to the bottom of the chassis.
Yeah.
The only thing you've got from the bottom of the pan is the seat. Man. So you're pretty much down there. You're down there in the car and comfortable, and the cars are pretty low overall. I mean, they have a good ground clearance, but then overall they're pretty low.
Yeah.
Will, I see that the new season streaming.
Yes.
Tell us about the next season. When can we see it on TV? What do you know? What are we going to see? What to look for? Favorite? Well, give us the inside scoop.
Let's see. Inside scoop that I know nothing about the TV. Let's see.
Well, talk shit. Nobody knows. Just make shit up. Nobody knows.
It's starting next week. It's starting next week on normal TV, real TV, whatever you want to say. And then I don't know that much about it. We've done
what cars?
Done a bunch of.
Is there a car that you had? Do you know what the lineup is?
We've got a couple Volkswagens.
Okay.
For good clients, and a couple unique Volkswagens. One very unique Volkswagen I know of. Mm-hmm. And then we have the Vets. These Vets that we're just talking about. Right. We got those going on. And then beyond that, you'd be like playing memory games with me, and I don't remember.
All right, fuck it.
Well, John, it's time.
It's 22. Yeah.
Yes, it's time.
You guys got to get back to business, or what?
We got to shut it down. It's just the way it is, man. I hate to say
Listen,
that.
Will, I appreciate you coming on. Great going through the timeline of who what. Absolutely. I know a lot of people watched this and thought, I didn't know, saw that, loved it. I tried to reach out to Dave. Dave's I forget her name. His assistant told me he's jam-packed busy. I need you to get me a message to him and say, listen, Dick, do the show. Tell him it wasn't so bad. We didn't break his balls. Yeah, I'd like to have Dave on. I didn't reach out to Kev Dog, even though Kev Dog and I met him. Last time I saw him was at Barrett Jackson. Yeah,
I asked them both at Scottsdale, and they said they'd do it.
I'm sure they would. Yeah. I know right now is a super busy time.
We do it after when you guys ain't so busy, man.
I was just like, wait a minute, Lou.
Yeah, with the premiere, with everything coming up, how many shows do you have? What's it, 12? How many do you have in a can for this season?
12 to 16.
Yeah, that's pretty good run.
Good season.
Pretty good run.
Pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Tell Dave or Kev Dog that when you guys get to like airing number 11, which I guess is sometime, December or January or sometime, before it's over, tell them to come on and we'll do our thing.
I'll tell them.
We talk it through. Put a good word in for us because we don't kill anybody.
Yeah.
Lou's a dick, but I'm not a dick. Breaking my balls in the intro, so I got to get back.
That's the way it is.
Will, I appreciate it. Thank you. I know you can still hear us. Thank you.
All right. So there you have it. Will Lockwood. The guy's been around the block a time or two, right? I mean, come on. He's building cool stuff. Next week, Are we just going to do the BS session? Is that what we're going to do? Answer.
I think you and I need to talk offline. I think that either Noah, Ryan from West Coast Customs, we got like 4 or 5 people that actually want to come on. If we don't, let's just wing it. We'll do the phone calls. Call in. We'll talk shit. And we'll answer questions. And,
all right. So what we're going to do next week for you guys that are still holding on, we don't know yet. But we'll have a show. It's going to be good.
Hey, follow Garage Insider for the updates. We will let you know what's happening. If it's just us talking shit, you can call in. We'll set the number up. If it's not, we got a guest. Keep an eye out for it. I mean, Lou and I, we talk all the time on the phone about different things. I can tell you, Lou can solve any problem, whether it's somebody in your yard, whether your refrigerator is making noise, or your car won't go into second gear. He can figure it the fuck out. I'm telling you. I'm amazed. I've called him with friends on the phone going, Lou will figure it out. And he knows it. You know it. I got a water leak that's coming inside my floor.
Yeah, Puss.
Puss is watching.
We'll tell him about that one next week.
Text Ray and tell him you're thinking about him because 76 years old. He's going into surgery.
I called him twice. He didn't answer. I'll call him again. I'll text him. That's what I'll do. That's a better idea.
Oh, you know what? I want to tell you. I was talking to him on the phone. You want to hear a funny story real fast? I said, "How you doing?" He's all drugged up. I mean, they got him all fucked up. So he says to me, he goes, "You know what's embarrassing?" I said, "What?" He goes, "I had to pee. I can't get up." I said, "Yeah." He goes, I swear to God, he tells me this. He goes, "I had to ask the nurse to grab my little dick." He goes, he goes, help me shoot it in the right direction. Lou, I was laughing so hard. I had to put the phone on mute because I knew if he heard me laughing, he would laugh and be in pain.
Right.
So I just let it go like, oh my God, is he crazy? He goes, "You know how embarrassing that is? Wait till you become my age." I said, "I won't be on a ladder trying to put lights up, you ass."
No kidding.
Yeah, but he's telling me that. He goes, "Yeah, you don't have that problem anyhow." I'm like, "Listen," he says, girl's 20-some years old. I had to ask her. I'm like, "Yeah, okay. I know how he is. You knew how he is."
Yeah.
That's not the only thing he asked her.
Yeah, no kidding.
How'd you like to make $5 the hard way? Yeah.